Hello, 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 and welcome to Latinx YC, where we discuss the good, the bad, the ugly. Some of it is ugly. Of U.S. politics from a Latino, Latina, and Latinx perspective. Hello.
Hello, my love. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Hanging in there as best as possible. So my name is Clemencia Herrera. I'm the founder of Moira Studio, a cross-cultural advertising agency that works with progressive political campaigns, organizations, and advocacy initiatives to engage with Latino audiences exactly how they deserve, which is in an authentic and caring way.
And I'm Cecilia del Cid, an environmental and social justice practitioner, Pan American, immigrant from Guatemala, community weaver, also working in media.
And I am really excited about today's episode because it is a very Latina power focused episode. And we're highlighting the incredible efforts and achievements that Latinas are doing in California. And because in this show, we always like to base ourselves in facts, we have two very special guests joining us today that are experts in the topic. Yes. Back with us, welcome back, Helen. Back with us today is Helen Torres, the CEO of Hispanas Organized for Political Equality, HOPE, where she leads one of the nation's most influential Latina organizations. And for the past 22 years, she's strategically built a Latina leadership and advocacy infrastructure in California, composed of thousands of civically engaged Latina leaders in elected and appointed office as business, philanthropic, and community leaders. Yes! Welcome back, Helen.
It's so good to be back, and it's so wonderful to see all the incredible work Clemencia, you and Cecilia have been doing in the past year since we've talked. So congratulations to all of you, and big hug to all your listeners, especially those that embrace Latina empowerment.
Yes. And we also have with us Cynthia Moreno, who is a data analyst at the USC Equity Research Institute. And during her years at the Institute, she's focused on immigrant inclusion and racial justice research, primarily using qualitative methods that include interviewing and focus group facilitation. And she holds degrees in psychology and social work and is passionate about using research as a tool to improve conditions for immigrants and communities of color. Amazing work, Cynthia. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to meet you too. It's an honor to be here.
Awesome. So
thank you for joining us.
The reason why they're joining us today is because you ladies published a report called Leading with Hope, Supporting Latina Leaders for a Better California. And if anyone is interested in reading it, you can find it at latinas.org. It's right the first thing on the homepage. Helen and Cynthia, would you mind telling us, sharing with our listeners, what are the high-level takeaways of this report?
And what does it mean?
Yes. Thank you both. So, yes, really, I'll let Helen kind of take over when we talk about kind of the impetus and the inspiration for this report. But just as a preview of what it is that we found, we organized our report in three main buckets. And so the first is we found that the Latinas that we spoke to, that we interviewed and surveyed as part of our report, learned to lead or strengthen their leadership skills, largely as a part of engaging with an organization like HOPE and becoming a part of the HLI Hope Leadership Institute network. And having that network provide both professional and personal support made such a big difference in their trajectories. The second part of our report focuses or narrows in on how and where those Latinas have made a very strong impact in the state of California. And you'll see that's probably the meatiest part of the report. It goes into a ton of stories and examples about the amazing accomplishments these women have accomplished in the state. And then three, it's kind of our call to action as to kind of gives a little bit more of a deep dive as to how investing in Latinas in the state of California would benefit the entire state, not just Latinas, not just Latinos, but all California communities, given that we found that Latinas tend to lead with an equity perspective and an eye towards building multiracial, multicultural bridges with others.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, today during our prep talk, we learned that California has the largest population of Latinas in the country. So definitely this report can serve as a model, as a template for other states that have growing Latino populations and what it could mean for the state. I mean, California is doing pretty well. So, and it's thanks to all the advances that have been happening. So Helen, tell us a little bit more about that, because that's the more grayscale area here.
So a couple things. First of all, I really want to highlight and lift up the work that Cynthia has been able to accomplish through this report, and the pleasure it was to work with another fellow Latina. Oftentimes when you're doing report studies, and I have a great appreciation to all researchers, but oftentimes what our experience has been at Hope, that the biggest lift is explaining to the researcher what you're trying to accomplish. And Cynthia, of course, and her team, and under the guise of the incredible Dr. Manuel Pastor, they understood right away. They understood that Hope was facing a interesting problem. As you mentioned, Clemencia, we in California have a quarter of the Latina population. And to put that in perspective, we know that in the United States, Latinos and Latinas are the second largest group in our demographics. And so California has an oversized role of serving Latinos and Latinas. But with all of that, and understanding that California cannot flourish, the United States cannot move forward without Latino and Latina truly being both economically and politically at every table of decision making, we still have challenges in California. And that was really truly the genesis for this report. After putting in 23 plus years of training Latinas, creating an incredible political and social network in which Latinas have been taking the big step of either running for office, starting their own businesses, getting appointed to commissions that have incredible power here in California. We still just saw the first of. And a lot of them got to that first of because of a network like Hope. Not only Hope, but because of examples of networks like Hope. Why is that? And that's one of the questions that we asked through the report, was the why. Why was this so incredibly difficult for Latinas in a state as diverse and where we make up the majority? 39% of women in California are Latinas, and you hear that from the report clearly. We're such a demographic force. 50% plus kids in California are being raised by a Latina mother. So think about the influence mothers have in our economy, in our political environment. They're Latinas here in California, right? So all of that. So two things that we were trying to answer is like, why is it that we can get to the first, but we can't create critical mass in key leadership decision-making tables? And then second is, why are we being so overlooked by philanthropy when it comes to investing in Latina-led efforts and in the Latina community? Nationwide, both between Latina and Latino, so not just Latina, less than 2% of philanthropy dollars go to Latino-led efforts. Why is that? So we thought an answer to answer both those questions. Why is it just the first and only? And why is the investment so minuscule to our community? We needed to put out a report that created a case of why it was important to invest in Latinas. Yes, we had to create this report, spend expenditures of dollars to make a case of why people should invest in one of the largest growing populations in California and the United States. And so that's why it was so important, everything that Cynthia shared. was one, we're a demographic force to be reckoned with. Two, that when we lead with equity in mind. And three, we create social networks that really advance Latina leadership so that we start answering not only like, why is there just one? But now we have a huge pipeline of Latinas to make sure that it's not one and done, that it's not just one and the only one. And that's why it's so important to have these types of reports so we can document our road to success and also have a creative way to hold others accountable.
That's awesome. I like to dive in a little bit deeper into, having that network and having that community, because when you mentioned that, I'm brought back to, thousands of years that, we like women all lived in community, helped each other raise their children, and work together. And we lost so much of that over time. And like now it's, we're coming back together again and trying to, build a community so we can support each other. Cause like, women are flourishing once they find this community. And it just felt like you guys made such a big emphasis on like finding this community was what helped these women launch their careers or really, lose their fear to do something, or, just something shifted inside of them through this community. And I like to dive a little bit more into that because I feel like it's so interesting. And also, I feel like our listeners out there, maybe some of them may be saying, I want to do something and I don't know how to do it. And it's like, maybe it's time for you to find a community that will help you get it done.
I love that, Clemencia. And Cynthia, I think you discovered quite a few stories about the women, right? And how community made a difference for them, especially being part of a social, political network of community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I can share some of those, and then maybe Helen, you can talk about, why it is that that's such an important part of the Leadership Institute. But yeah, our interview protocol had 30 plus questions, and I would say most of them would circle back to hope, circle back to the network and how much they credited the network and the continued, because the network or the program that they're a part of, it does have an end date, but the network definitely does not. And, years after these women have participated in the program, they have these long lasting, very impactful relationships with other women. And it was just a testament to the impact of hope and to the impact, kind of the ripple effects that they have as well. As I said, it goes beyond the program. And time again, I could be asking about, how is it that you made it into this position, or how is it that you decided to change course? And it would come back to someone else who was a part of the network who helped them gain the confidence to go for that commission seat, or to completely change course in their careers. I'm trying to think of specific examples. Some of my favorite were about how connecting professionally with another woman in the network then led to a network of mothers who would then rely on each other for like how to be professional mothers and how to deal with the guilt of that that comes with working alongside familial relationships and responsibilities. And even for those who weren't mothers, that familial responsibility, that shared culture of of putting your career first, which may not always be, and as all of us here probably know, isn't the default, which it may be for other groups. And so it was really impactful for me to hear those types of stories and to see just how much support is necessary in order to get to places where others may already occupy, where it may be easier for other groups men to occupy or to reach those levels of success. And it was just really incredible to hear these stories. And I can't emphasize enough like how this does start out as a professional network, and it does its job in that regard, but it wouldn't be as impactful or as as important to their lives or their trajectories without that personal component as well.
I loved what Cynthia shared, because one of the key themes of any network, one of the key ingredients is trust. Mm-hmm. And these women, they sign up, they go through a pretty rigorous process to be part of the Hope Leadership Institute. So they're already coming into a group of women that are very similar to them in their goals of civic engagement, very similar, that the majority of them, Cynthia, I think it's close to 70% are first generation, 20% are immigrant. So there's a common story, right? I don't know about all of you, but I know growing up, sometimes I was not only the translator for my family as a first generation, but I also had to understand that, my family experience was not the experience that most other kids were having in a non-Latino neighborhood, right? And just navigating that. And it's a lot to navigate, right? So our women come finally to a space, an environment where they don't have to navigate that. They can show up and learn, not having to think twice about how they're really communicating, explaining, being corrected of how they're saying a word, or being, thinking twice of like, wait, did you just say that? Isn't that a little bit racist? Those things just don't happen as frequently. I'm sure they've happened, but as frequently in this network. So automatically you're with your own and you get to trust each other. And when you build that trust in a network and you show your vulnerability and also your strengths, you become part of a kitchen cabinet, if you will, of women that will support you and will speak up for you. And that's incredible, because I know in my position, I think my number one job is to be the promoter of Latinas. Where are we providing space? Where are we providing opportunity? And where are we referencing other Latinas? And that's what's happening in the Leadership Institute. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cecilia.
No, I was going to say, one of the things that I remember from the report that really spoke to me, and I think it relates to this ability of trust and connection that you're kind of like explaining for us, is how Latinas led with more kind of a better sense, a better lens of racial justice and equity, and also in co-creation with other groups that don't identify as Latino, Latinx. Also recognizing that the Latino bucket is an amalgam of a huge amount of places and backgrounds and ethnicities, right? Like, we are very, very diverse. We are not a monolith. We are a group that has very diverse ethnicities, histories, political backgrounds. So this idea that women, which doesn't surprise me, right? Like, that's the root of solidarity and feminism, and like kind of how we operate in a patriarchal system, are creating this model of leadership that is just not to uplift us, but to uplift others. How do you see that? What is the effects that you hope having awareness of that will do for our political power, for our community power? How do you see these being? I mean, I can see why this is important for not just women in California or Latina women, but also recognizing that this is what, to me, is the unlearning of so many patterns, and how we are approaching these positions of power with a different lens, and not just saying, oh, if women were to be in leadership, they would do it differently. Because I've seen women operate and step on other women in a patriarchal system. That's what the system does. That's what it makes you operate. So how are we training each other to show up in different ways and to show up in leadership for our communities in this country who are very diverse in a way that is looking into the future with a lens of equity and justice?
Yeah, I think there's two great examples in the report that I would call out. And you have to remember, a lot of the data collection was happening during and this continued conversation around race and equity in the United States, during the Black Lives Matter movement, during the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd. And two in particular, one is a city council member in the city of Riverside, the other a supervisor in San Diego County, both the first Latinas in their positions, right? The first Latina elected to the Riverside City Council, the first Latina to be elected to San Diego. Just even hear the word San Diego. And in 2021 was the first time they had a Latina on their supervisors as a supervisor. Both women pass, I wouldn't say legislation, but ordinances, and I forget exactly what it's called, but ways to look at how city government or San Diego's county government was looking at race from a health disparity lens, so that they put race and this ethnicity front and center of how the discussions were happening both in Riverside and in San Diego. It took a Latina to make that happen, right? And when we talk about race and ethnicity, we're not just talking from a Latino lens. It is very inclusive of all communities. So that's the difference that it makes when you have Latinas at the table that are not just looking out for their community, but truly investing in the democracy of our state and our United States. When they are looking at it from an equitable lens, they're passing ordinances, they're looking at ways city services and county services are being delivered through race and ethnicity. And that didn't happen before. So I think those are two examples. Cynthia, I'm not sure if you want to add to those two examples or correct me if I got anything wrong on that.
No, you definitely didn't get anything wrong. And those were two examples in particular that stood out to me as well. And I think I would add that specifically for the woman in San Diego that we're thinking of, other interviewees, other women that we spoke to referenced that work. So it's already having this model effect, or it's getting to other leaders in other parts of the state, and people are paying attention. Women HLI alumni are paying attention to the kind of work that other women are pushing forward in other parts of the state. And so I just wanted to highlight that because, even if, like you mentioned, Cecilia, just, electing a woman or electing a Latina or appointing one doesn't necessarily mean that progress is going to move forward. And one thing that stood out to me in the interviews that we conducted was that other women that we spoke to were recognizing how impactful leading with the racial equity lens is and how much more can be accomplished. So that's the only thing that I'll add.
I think what I'm hearing here is that maybe this community having this network that's safe is the medicine for this flawed learning that we've had for hundreds of years of tearing other women down or feeling like, another woman is a competition. It's like, like Ceci said, it's things that we've learned from a patriarchy or survival that we've learned from living in a patriarchy for so long. But, maybe when women get together and they are truly trying to help each other and supporting each other, maybe this gets removed. Maybe you're like, hey, maybe my world is not hostile all the time. Maybe I can actually think in a way that may be looking forward and also inclusive instead of divisive and competitive. Which is like, basically we're sort of building a different world. We're trying to build something completely different and, trying to say what we were just doing, not working. We're going to do something completely different over here and giving the women the power to actually, empowering them to actually do that and just say, we're going to try something completely different is so important because it's time to do something completely different. What we're doing right now, not working and just trying to put patches on things. No, we just need to just start over. Let's just, start over. And also women are bringing such a I felt that as a woman, growing up, that I needed to be very masculine to try to, lead or try to, get to positions of power. But we inherently have this absolute nurturing aspect to us that we've been hiding for so long, or we've been shunning away for so long to try to be successful in our careers. But this is actually now our biggest asset. And it's actually when we're leading with this nurturing aspect, and it's really when we're creating a whole new world, and we have the power to do it. We create lives, and we can also create many other things because of this aspect. So it really feels to me that now that women are starting to understand that coming together and supporting each other is the way to go. Maybe we just need to create more of that. We need to create more spaces for women to feel trust and to feel safe, so they can be more themselves and take that nurturing side of them.
Do you think that having... Oh, sorry, Helen.
No, Cynthia, please go.
I was going to say, do you think that having women in these positions of power, or at least having this network, and eventually seeing that one by one, we're having like the first one in the 2020 year. It's amazing that San Diego just had some first elected officials. But if that is what is happening in a state that holds or has a population that has at least 39% of the Latina population, how are we activating our communities? Is it important are you finding that it's important for the electorate communities to see women, Latina women, in these roles? I'm wondering if that is part of also the goal, trying to highlight with your report what it means to bring to power, to support these leaders, to nurture them, to train them, to provide them with a lot of, because leaders are not born, right? I think a lot of people think that you're either born a leader or not, and the truth is that most of us grow and get nurtured and get trained through life. But some have maybe more characteristics or skills than others, but it's something that we all can learn, and we all can take that role. So how is that helping us build political power, transform our communities?
Well, I would say, and Cynthia, please jump in. I would say a couple things about political power. One, at this point in time, and this is just from my vantage point, we have been somewhat successful of getting the first, right? Where our next stage of political power is building up beyond the first. So the importance of the first is that, one, it creates a pathway, it creates a roadmap, if you will, of how to get there. And it also motivates and creates role modeling of people seeing themselves saying, well, if that person's there and they were able to do it and they come from my similar background, perhaps there's a shot for me, right? So it opens up that door of possibility in our community. But unfortunately, we kind of stop there. The next big hurdle is the resources needed to get to those positions. And that's where the first is helpful, but it's not enough. You have to have a community to really break down some of the systematic barriers to not only elected office and political office, and that is money. So there is a huge level of education that has to happen within our community of understanding what it takes, because it doesn't have to be money in the sense of dollars. It could be resources, I should say. It doesn't always have to be resources in the sense of money. It could be resources of your time, of your sweat equity to get out there and mobilize. And that's why promotora programs are so successful in our community. There's very little funding that goes into them. But when you have a señora next door coming to you, talking to you about why you should vote and explaining how to vote, it makes a huge difference in our community. So we have to go beyond the inspiration of seeing the first getting elected and really building political power. One of the things that the report does a great job of is talking about, well, what about those resources? So we have the numbers as Latinos and Latinas, right? Demographically, in almost every state, there is a community of Latinos that have the numbers to get people elected. How we mobilize those individuals, to come together as a community takes resources. How we take that responsibility ourselves takes resources, right? There's the education, the demystifying, the breaking down of barriers. So sometimes those resources do translate into money. What else do we talk about in the report? The fact that there is the largest pay equity in the United States here in California is among Latinas.
Like the disparity?
So, the pay equity. So we're not getting paid. I mean, last year, for a Latina to make as much as a white man, it took up to October of the same year, right? This year it's going to be December. So we're taking steps back about actually seeing economic wealth building in our community. We have to see that politics and economics go hand in hand. So we have to not only build up our savviness of understanding the political process, but also building up our economic wealth to really truly empower more Latinas and to really see an equitable democracy.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll add just on the point about pay disparities amongst or that Latinas experience in the state. That doesn't change, or that stays consistent. In fact, that gap grows with the more education that Latinas get. So the largest gap exists amongst bachelor's degree holding Latinas and higher. Their median wage, I believe, is $8 less than all other women, or compared to all other women as one group. Mm-hmm. So, and that's the largest gap. So like for folks who have an AA degree, that gap is a little bit less. And then so the higher you go, the wider the gap becomes, which is odd. I mean, we think about education as kind of, this magic key that opens doors, and that's not the case. And I bring that up because that's another place where we have, inferred from the data that is where a network like Hope comes in to then take that degree, take that achievement in and of itself to the next level by creating those networks, meeting the people that you need to meet, understanding what options there are for your types of degrees. So I wanted to highlight that because it seems like education in and of itself isn't the answer, at least not anymore. And if we want to see more Latinas participate politically and become these elected officials, those types of networks are going to be important too.
Well, I mean, it's important to note that some of these accomplishments have been achieved by immense obstacles and hardships. During Women's Month earlier in the year, we talked about another report that spoke about the way that voters see women that are running for office as opposed to men. And they're just so much, they hold them in such harsher light and so much more strict. And so women that are running for office, that are hoping for people to vote for them, have a really high mountain to climb, and it's steeper. And so it's some of these accomplishments and some of this, and this is why I think you need to go back to this network and this community, because if you're alone, you'll give up very quickly, because it's not easy to become that first one at all, or the second one, or the third one. It really is not. It's not easy at all. Some of these accomplishments have been, so much blood, sweat, and tears to get there that, Latinas need all the support that they can get in all kinds of ways. And it's not, something that we came up with. This was literally a report that was backed up with data of how much harder it is for women in general. And then when you start adding the Latina aspect, that's even harder. So when we're talking about pay equity, Latinas, I think we checked on that like last year. Latinas made the least amount of money over African American women,
right?
And Anglo women, they make the least amount of money. So all of these accomplishments are incredible. When you're really looking at the obstacles that we're faced every day in our lives, and so it's really important to note that there's probably many Latinas out there struggling, trying to get better pay, and also try to launch their careers, either in politics or just anything else. And so I think like some of these concepts extrapolate to many other things, the struggles, and also the community part, and the leadership, the helping with leadership part. It's not just, if you're trying to run for office, it's also if you're trying to be a leader in anything.
Right.
In any kind of industry. So all of these, leadership trainings and leadership communities, I think it really extrapolates to everything.
It does. And I would call out that for us to really see success in the long term is that we do have to get our economic house in order. And part of getting the economic house in order is to ensure that society and the economic powers that will do not get away with bad practices, right? That we fight for our fair share, that we don't second guess why we're going for a loan for our small business and if we're worthy enough to get that loan, but really ask, well, why haven't we gotten that loan? That we ensure that our elected officials understand the power that we have in electing them, and we're holding them accountable. But to your point, Clemencia, all of that is a high lift for when you're just showing up every day to work and you're thinking about your student loan, or if you're in one of these categories. I know I put myself through college as a maid and a waitress and a janitor. All those three jobs helped me get to college or through college. I was just trying to survive. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I found the time, and that's what I think we're asking everyone, and that's why networks are important. Networks often give you that shot in the arm you need to be energized, to know that you're not alone, to say, I'm not only going to survive, but I've got to stretch. I've got to stretch because that's what my community needs, and that's what success is going to call for. So I always say this report was a love letter to all the Hope Leadership Institute women that was utilized as a case study for the report to really make that narrative argument of why philanthropy and others should be investing in Latinas. But it's also a call to action for our own community to really take that look inward, to say, yes, we've accomplished X amount so far, but that's just the beginning. There is so much more. We often talk in the Leadership Institute about responsibility. If we believe that democracy can work for us, it is our responsibility to show up. A network provides you that ability to stretch and to hopefully take away some of the pain. But it is that old saying, no pain, no gain. This is not easy stuff. This is not easy stuff to show up for your community, to say, I am a leader, and to make societal changes. But we know we got to do it.
Yes. That was very inspiring, Helen. Thank you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I always love having you over because I'm always like, yes.
Let's all stretch then.
Let's all go right now.
A good stretch is a good stretch, I can tell you.
Yeah, I mean that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that. So Ceci, do you have anything to add before we take us home here?
I think that echoing what Clemence is saying, definitely you put it beautifully about, and I was just thinking as you were saying, I was like, there is good pain and there is bad pain. Like I only wanna know the pain of I'm building muscle. I don't wanna know the pain of injury. I was like, I'm always so caught up on that. I was like, I don't want any pain. No pain. But so I appreciate definitely the word that you're using on a stretch, because that is what we're asking our communities. That's what we like. That coming from like a social justice, like liberation practice, what I'm asking for is the ability to have what everyone hopes for, which is time with my family, time with my loved ones, and enough space for joy and rest. I don't want to be in the hustle. Like I think we are trying to break these patterns of systems that have put us in this, that have ground us and spit us out. And I am not interested and not invested in them anymore. And I think recognizing that we can do this, recreate a new world in a way that is just a stretch to make us grow, and it's not stretching us to the point in which it's breaking us. Because that I will always resist that. But I was just going to say, you put it so beautifully, and recognizing that is also a practice of solidarity and of like growth in community. When I hear you, that's what I am.
I think
there's
some
from it.
I think there's some solidarity, but there's also some self-care. And like when I'm going to surround myself with people that care about me and want to see me succeed, I'm taking care of myself, because we're not going to succeed at the expense of ourselves. Like, we need to be okay in order for us to uplift our communities. We can't just like forget about ourselves and just, because that's the giver syndrome that we need to forget about. We also need to be strong enough to uplift others. Mm-hmm. So, I guess, the takeaway is find yourselves your community, find yourselves your tribe, whatever it is. If it's Hope, if that calls to you, that Leadership Institute, then go for it. And if it's also, your friend circle or another network, an official one, a paid one, a free one, whatever, find what it is that calls out to you, because that's what's going to give you the strength to keep yourself whole, so you can do more and you can stretch. So thank you so much.
I will also add about the strength of a network. It allows you to stretch, but also allows you to pause. You don't have to hold the weight of the world and everything that needs to be changed on your shoulders. Yes. You have to think also strategically of what you need to take care of yourself and your family. But when you're part of a network, you can visualize and select people who you're going to be passing the baton to. And there is something that is so powerful about that. Yes. You don't have to do it all. You can create a place that gives you the grace to step out when you need to, so that others can step up in their leadership. And that is the power of a strong network. That's what we see through the Hope Leadership Institute. So I challenge your listeners, I challenge us every day. How are we creating networks that we can stretch ourselves, know that we've got to go beyond survival, we got to go to thrive, and that there's a battle to be won. Mm-hmm. But with that battle, you do have to have that self-care, and you have to nurture others' leadership so that you can take that step back, that someone else can step in.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Helen and Cynthia. This was, I'm walking out of this like, I hope everybody out there feels such as pumped as we are. We can do this. We're awesome. And if the Hope Institute calls out to you, you can go to latinas.org, or you can visit them on social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Hope Latinas, HOPE Latinas. And if you want to get in touch with us about anything, if you loved it, if you have questions, if you have suggestions, please email me at clem@latinxyzpod.com. And you can find us on social media at latinxyzpod on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, where you can watch us all talk like crazy for 15 seconds.
And also, like, read the report. It's beautiful. It looks beautiful and has a lot of wonderful information for all of us.
Yes, you can find the report. Latinas.org is the first thing on the homepage. And thank you so much. Thank you for all you guys do, and hope you guys are awesome. We're always looking up to you, and what you're doing for Latinas out there is incredible. So thank you.
Cynthia and Cecilia. And I just once again have so much gratitude and respect for Cynthia Moreno and all the incredible work she does as a data analyst. To have a Latina partner with us in telling our story has just been a true gift. So thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you both for giving us the opportunity to talk about it even more, because I will talk about this report at every chance that I get.
Thank you very much.
Latina Power, yes. With that, we'll leave you. Thank you so much. See you next week.
See you next week.